Tobermory 17-year-old limited edition Oloroso cask matured versus North Star Tobermory 26-year-old. What are these like? And should you be chasing either of these? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. What up, my whiskey people? Mark Kaufman here for Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America. Bringing you a 2-up of Tobermory. We have an official bottle, the 17-year-old limited edition Oloroso cask matured. And then we have a North Star. This is a 26-year-old Tobermory. Woo! This is 51% ABV. This is from the Cask Series 16, bottled from a refill hogshead. So it's probably bourbon. It could be a bit of sherry, but because it's a reassembled cask, but probably predominantly bourbon, hence the color. And then we have a fully Oloroso cask matured Tobermory. And this one is 17 years old. It's 55.9% ABV. It's got the age, well, not the age, it's got the ABV advantage. Let's get that poured. Okay. Label front mark. Here we go. Nice pour. And I'll set that down below here. And the North Star. For independent bottles, North Star is one of the bottlers that I've bought most of. I think I poured a little too much of that. Whoops. Okay. And I want to preface this by saying that I've been a pretty big Tobermory fan from the beginning, at least the beginning that I noticed it in retail shelves. And in fact, where did I get the first bottle of Tobermory 10? I believe it was here in Manitoba, in fact. And then my first bottle of Letchek, the peated Tobermory, also I bought in Manitoba. They no longer carry either of those, and they really need to consider getting it back on shelves. In fact, I wish I could just order them and say, get that back on the shelves, because it belongs on shelves here. So if you're listening, Manitoba Liquor Mart, do as I say and get it back on the shelves. Rant over. Okay, let's compare the color of these two. Definitely more to the, let's call that the orange coppery shade for the Oloroso cask matured, and much lighter lemony, and yet still has a substantial amount of interesting hue going on there. Let me have a look myself. Yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say. So they're both high proof. I think this is going to be a nice comparison, partially because we have, well, let's call it middle-aged Tobermory versus old. I think the 26-year-old takes it back to a time maybe before the current owners bought the distillery. So that's cool. And both of them are before the recent upgrades to the distillery, which happened a couple years ago. But I think by any standards, these are both deluxe, luxury, top shelf whiskeys that deserve my full attention here. So that was the color. Let's check the legs out. Just spinning it around here. Okay, so let's see what we see for legs. The 17-year-old Tobermory official bottle legs came out first. The 26-year-old followed. They're both quite slow to begin. The secondary legs are now beginning for the 17-year-old. and now also for the 26. I think because of the cask content, the 17-year-old seems to have a little bit more robust legs going on. However, the age of the 26-year-old is certainly doing some good things here as well. So that's great. And now for both of these, I'm going to start with the 17-year-old, and then we'll get into the 26-year-old, and we'll check this out in this order: the nose, the palate, the finish. We'll try it neat first, and then with water, and then give each of them a WhiskyWhistle whiskey score in turn. And I'll make some final comments at the end. So do stay tuned for that, okay? And before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to WhiskyWhistle right now. Hit that subscribe button and join the big group of people that's about 20% of the viewership that subscribe to WhiskyWhistle. So join that elite group. Hit like, leave a comment. What do you think of Tobermory in general? Have you tried either of these? And if so, tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments, your tasting notes, okay? And if you're enjoying WhiskyWhistle and you'd like to maybe give a hand, lend a hand to the channel, then jump in and support me on Patreon, patreon.com/WhiskyWhistle. And with that small donation, you'll get your name in the credits at the end of each video. You'll also get advanced viewership of future Whiskey Whistles. And last but not least, you will get your own Whiskey Whistle glass with enough support. Hopefully that sounds great, and I hope to see you there. All right, so let's get into that 17-year-old Tobermory. So limited edition, I don't know how many bottles there are here. It is non-chill filtered, so that's great. I'm pretty sure it's there's no color added as well. However, it doesn't say that on the bottle itself. You know what? I want to grab the box, so just give me 1 second because I know exactly where it is. Bear with me. You got it. Well, this is a 2004 vintage, so that's cool. Bottled in 2021. Non-chill filtered. No mention of whether of it being natural in color. Hopefully that is. Formerly, I believe it used to say that, but anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts, and if you can find that bottle in Germany or Denmark, please let me know what it says there, because your countries have to disclose the facts of color, whether it's added or not. Okay, so the nose here for Tobermory 17. Now, if you grab this thinking that you're going to get yourself a massive sherry bomb, and that it's going to be like Macallan, or it's going to be like, I don't know, sherry Glenlivet, or what else is super sherried? Bunnahabhain 18. No. This is a much more complex, quirky, unique single malt. And it belongs in a category, I mean, obviously it's an islands, quote unquote islands region, but it belongs in a category with things like Othrusk and Clynelish and Ben Nevis, and some of these really distinctive malts that you just really cannot pigeonhole. So it doesn't matter what cask you throw at Tobermory, it's going to remain Tobermory, which is cool. So here we're getting this with a lot of age, and it's got some nuts, a nuttiness to it. Walnut. But skin on, darkly roasted walnut. Right before it starts getting burnt. Okay, so roasted walnuts. There is lots of dark fruit in there, but it is locked behind the essence of Tobermory. Probably this is a little bit peated. to a lesser degree. Let's say it's 2 or 5 ppm. And that's adding a little bit of saltiness, a little bit of complexity. And this may also be from a time when barrels were stored on site. But it's got its distinctive greenness. You can think of it as maybe like fresh spring grass that's mowed for the first time. To me, it reminds me of parsley, fresh parsley. And every time I smell that, I think, oh, wow, this is nice. I really like the fact that it has its own identity. A sprig of mint, a bit of vanilla, some sweetness in there. Fruity sweetness. Balsamic vinegar sweetness. The real stuff. It's got a herbalness, a herbal edge to it. And quite interesting. Well, I think that's good for the nose. Let's get into this palate. I'm dying to try this. Cheers. Wow. The palate is where you really get the sherry coming through. Dark prunes, especially prunes. And that dark prune Vina Tarta richness carries way into the finish, and it just keeps going on and on and on. That is massive. Woo! It is salty. You got a little bit of cocoa in there. Cocoa, the prune. Some really dark currants. A winter Christmas pudding, full of prunes and currants and all of those dark fruits. And it's got, like a dark cake. And you've got that that sauce that you cook and you pour onto it. That green note is like, it's like parsley, mint, a bit of rosemary. Something that you might just love to enjoy with a nice roast lamb, or leg of lamb, or lamb chops. And I am sure that this whiskey would be just phenomenal with lamb. I'm really enjoying this, and it's really, really nice, neat, and it's 55, 0.8%, 55.9%, and yet it is acting like it's 48, 47. It's so sippable and enjoyable. And I think I need one more sip before I add water because I'm enjoying it so much. The longer you keep it on your palate, the more interesting spices you get. Even though it's 17 years old, not that old, and yet it's acting more like it's 25, 26, 27 years old. It's really done some great things in cask for those 17 years. Let's get some water added. I want to add just a little bit. Give that a little bit of a shake. Let it sit for a minute. And I have one thought in my mind, is that this cask had quite a history to it. And, you know, was this actually an Oloroso cask that was actually used in a bodega and actually part of a Solera system or a vintage of sherry that sat there for a length of time and maybe had been reused? And if so, if that batch, that bunch of casks that they got for this one, I think we have some previous cask content, not just the flavoring the whiskey, but actually influencing the perception of age here. And I've mentioned that before, but I'll mention it again. But, you know, if you have a very fresh cask, you very well may have up to about 8 liters or so, maybe even more, of liquid stored in the staves that then come out and mingle with the new content, the new single malt, new make. And so then if you've got a 225 liter cask and you got 8 liters in there, so you're talking like, 3.5%, which is a sizable amount. And then eventually goes back and forth with temperature fluctuations in and out of those staves. And eventually just like a tea bag mixing with the content and influencing the flavor. Anyway, that's my thoughts here with this one. With water, let's check the nose out. With water, I feel like I am noticing some more peat here. The prune is still there. The parsley / mint / rosemary is there. It's dark. It's not that dark, but boy, it smells and tastes really dark. It's gotten brighter. Like some fresh fruit is jumping out here now. Really, really ripe, fresh plums alongside those prunes. A little bit of fresh currant. Still very herbal and still very complex and still very just delicious and bizarre at the same time. And the finish is carrying just as long here. Perhaps a little bit more astringent, but I'm liking it because it's just adding to the perception of the length of the finish. So enjoyable. So delicious. I got to give this a malt hug right off the bat here. Tobermory 17. And a big smooch. Mwah. Woo. Very nice. If you were able to get that and you haven't cracked it, and I know there's a fella in Canada here that that commented, I think, and they weren't sure if they were going to open it because they didn't know if it was quite like Lecheg, which they really like. And I think what I'll say is, if you love Lecheg, however you say it, if you really love Lecheg, you're going to love Tobermory, and you're going to love to be able to compare that together with Lecheg, and maybe even mix a little bit, add a little bit of peat to this, peated Lecheg to this, add a little bit of the Tobermory to a peated Lecheg. You still got your single malt, and I think that'd be really, really fun. But you're going to love this whiskey, and if you don't, if you don't want to get into it and you're going to leave that closed and you need to find a place to have that bottle adopted, let me know. Okay, great. Right, yeah, the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score. Let's get on to the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Tobermory 17, limited edition 2021, 2004 vintage, fully matured in Oloroso casks. What's that going to be, folks? It's going to be 96 out of 100. You heard it, 96 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Tobermory 17. Lovely, lovely whiskey, and it really, it just does it for me. That is my jam, and it's very jammy too. Okay, so great. Let me know your thoughts on that. If you've tried it, I'd love to hear from you, okay? I noticed that it didn't sell that quick. Lechek is selling faster than Tobermory, and I think that people need to rethink that. I don't know if that's resale value or what it is that's fueling Lechek, but Tobermory is phenomenal. Okay, so on to the North Star Tobermory 26-year-old in refill hogsheads. And I think I need to recharge my nose with a little bit of coffee. Okay, good. I think I've got to refill my coffee. Okay. That's good. And I think I'll actually take a sip of coffee too. And then some water. There we go. Okay, so one nice thing about having left this long is that older whiskeys need time in glass to really hit their peak. So this should be right about the right time, about 26 minutes. 26-year-old malt, 26 minutes in the glass. Now, isn't this dreamy? It's creamy. It's got vanilla fudgy notes. It's got well-weathered, aged, light peat. It's got some nicely roasted nuts. Boy, this is phenomenal. It's incredible, and maybe this is a refill sherry hogshead, but typically they'll tell you if it's a refill sherry hogshead. So nutty, so aged. So different. So this is totally a different Tobermory from what I know. And my first experience with Tobermory would have been 2014, 10-year-old. So about the same vintage as this, 2004. Maybe it was 2002 if that were older stock. But here you're talking, let's say that's, does it say when it was distilled? Bottled July 2021. Distilled March 1995. I was 20 when this was distilled. I had just turned 20. And I was so focused on bike racing at that time. I was already in season. I think I was training in Tucson, Arizona that year. Oh. Some lovely marzipan coming through alongside some other nuts like walnuts, Brazil nuts. But I just got this little waft, and it's kind of like a Danish marzipan pig that you often get if you win getting the almond from your, what is it called again? Rizalaman, rice almond pudding. This is a type of whiskey that you could spend an hour, 2 hours just smelling it. And there was some, I'm really sorry to say it, there's some idiot who commented on one of my glass reviews. It was Glencairn versus what's it called again? The Norland glass. And he goes, I don't waste time to try to pick out so-called tasting notes. And I thought to myself, why do you even bother at that point? And he likes his tumbler, his old-fashioned glass, which is too harsh for a lot of cask-strength whiskeys if you're using a tumbler. This is a nosing glass, and it's an industry standard. So are things like, where have I got it? Like your ISO nosing glass, okay? Or one of these new type of glasses like this professional blender's glass. These focus the whiskey at your nose. Anyway, whatever. Just So as I'm smelling this, what I'm noticing is this is the type of whiskeys that I was really enjoying way back when. Even back in 2015, back in 2010, when I really started getting back into whiskeys again and actually buying some and trying things like Chivas 18, which, 2005 minus 18 years, it's just a little bit after this one, like 1998 maybe. And I'm getting the same different whiskey smells that take me back to that period, which is great. Oh, it's just beautiful. It's desserty, it's nutty, it's got some sweetness, it's got a little bit of peat. It's missing that greenness that I get from Tobermory, but I'm guessing that is something newer in the Tobermory, let's say it's signature. Okay, enough gushing over this one. I am totally gushing over this malt. Let's get into the palate, shall we? Cheers. Sweet, complex. It's got spices. It's got Eastern spices, some lemongrass, some Asian basil. Sweetness in there. It's got nutmeg, some sweet ginger. Supremely long, sweet, zingy finish. Leather. old leather-bound library volumes like encyclopedias where the pages have yellowed. It's still got that nice creaminess to it. A little bit of a pickled Korean hot pepper, gochujangachji. A tiny little bit of that in there, just uplifting the event and making this just really, really complex and, again, bizarre. Some 7-Up syrup at the end of the finish. Lemon, lime, vanilla. A little bit of herbal coming through there in the finish. Maybe that is that signature that I always find in Tobermory. Minty. Phenomenal presence. It is a little bit mild in terms of mouthfeel. The Tobermory 17 here has a better mouthfeel, and I thought I could see that little bit of a difference there in the legs, but on the palate, you definitely get a little bit more sumptuousness on the 17, but it's not a fault. It is just a little bit different, and it's just the way the cask is influencing or not influencing the whiskey itself. Some coconut, some white chocolate. The nuts are still there. The walnut, the marzipan, the leather. Really, really nice. Now, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to add a little bit of this spring water. Source Highland. It is a Highland malt. It is Island, but we don't really have that. And I'm going to use this instead. That was about 8 drops, a little bit less than 2 milliliters. And the reason I did that was because I think that's going to be more gentle and more representative of the whiskey itself. This also is spring water, by the way. This one is 300 ppm dissolved solids, and the one I'm using is about 100. So that's very neutral. This is probably slightly basic. Okay. They'll both be basic though, of course. This will just be a little bit more so. Okay, so let's check this out now with water added. I'm getting more of the Tobermory coming through here. But this is obviously Tobermory of old. Different barley strains, different fermentation practices, different distilling practices, different still masters, and I'm guessing also the way they use the stills would have been a bit different too. But really enjoyable, ramped up leather, ramped up the old books, leather-bound books. The marzipan and the walnuts have taken a hiatus here, but I'm getting more access to like the DNA of Tobermory at that time, and it's a little bit minerally. It's a little bit, I don't want to say swimming pool chemicals and turn you off on this, but there are some salts, some not salt itself, but salts, you know, whether it's potassium chloride or some other metal chloride that's making this just really, really, again, bizarre. And I think that's where I get some of this green kind of parsley note. It's like chlorophyll. And it's so fresh and so interesting. And it's still very creamy and still very lovely to smell here. Okay, onto the palate with water. Cheers again. Wow. Some lemon oil coming in here. Citrus. That endgame 7-Up syrup kind of coming closer into the palate. No wonder whiskey was considered the water of life, right? Whiskey biha. The nose is now reminding me of grappa. Some interesting barrel-aged grappa. And I'm sure I made the right choice using Whiskey's source. So check that out. I'll pull that up for you. If you see this, I got this at Vincenzo's in Waterloo, Ontario. Sometimes they have the Isla version packaged together like this with your Lafroig with a little water dropper, which is nice. So that's a nice little gift package. I think I don't need to have that in the package anymore. So that water is sourced from Isla. This water is sourced from Highland. And pay attention to the ppm, because the higher the ppm, the more things that'll happen there. This is 250, that's 300. It's about the same in the space side over here. This one is 161 ppm. All right. I need one more sip of this because it's just so incredible. Wow. I mean, if you are enjoying this moment with me, smash that like button. Or as that bass guy, who's that bass guy? Slap like. He's so funny. I like him. He's cool. And if he likes whiskey, maybe he should, I don't know. Can you make a bass guitar out of whiskey? That'd be cool. Okay, so, well, you know what has to happen here. This needs a big, close, loving whiskey hug. And a definite whiskey kiss right on the North Star label. Ian over at North Star, this is phenomenal, and I'm sure that people still talk about this bottle. This is going to go a long way, and I don't really think that too many people that I know will appreciate it, because you really, I mean, you can't approach this from the point of view of Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Macallan, Glenmorangie, and expect to be able to understand. You may enjoy it topically. You may say, oh, that's different. I like it. But I don't think you're going to get the full effect until you have traveled all of Scotland and beyond for single malt. From old times of old to modern times, to really, really appreciate this. And anyway, just phenomenal. Oh. That's right. The WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for North Star Tobermory, 26-year-old, from the Cask Series 16. It's 51% ABV, distilled in March 1995 when I was 20. Bottled in July 2021. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 97 out of 100. Oh my God. I mean, it's better than this one. This is fantastic. This is phenomenal. 96, 97. Oh my God. And this represents a big, let's say, a shift closer to the standard bell curve here on WhiskyWhistle. 700 and some odd reviews. When you count the total bottles that I've reviewed, you know, this is one review, but it's 2 bottles, right? And I've now edged into, you know, the top 4% in terms of what is, I don't know, perfect. This is nearing perfection. These are both just phenomenal whiskeys. So let me know your thoughts of these Tobermorys, and if you've tried them both. I mean, there's got to be some Tobermory nuts out there like me, and if you are a Tobermory nut, slap like. Let me know your thoughts on these, okay? If you are a sherry nut, this is a great option, but just keep in mind that the nose is still predominantly Tobermory. The whole event is Tobermory, but you've got this Oloroso sherry influence here. With time and glass, it does kind of crescendo and water. Pardon me, time and water. It crescendos the effect of sherry. But it's still herbaceous, delicious, complex Tobermory. The 26-year-old, so nutty, so different, so just old. An old style of whiskey. And it's just like 1,000 flavors. And the finish is like 1,000 seconds long. So great options here. I hope you like this. If you have comments about what you'd like to see in a future video, leave a comment. And don't forget to check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/WhiskyWhistle. And we'll see you there. And stay tuned for the next content, whenever that is. Take care, folks. Bye now.